Hello there. Welcome back to another session of Virtual Field Trips, Travels, and Destinations. My name is Beth Gaff, and I'm the Systems Manager, Technology Trainer, and Robotics Instructor here at the Peabody Public Library. Excuse me. So today we are going to be taking a look through time. And this field trip is a little bit different than some of the other field trips we've done. This is actually a field trip talking about Doomsday and the Doomsday Clock. So I'm going to provide you with the link so you can do a little bit of exploration in the exhibit better for yourself. I also have it where we're doing some of this together. So there's a lot involved with this particular field trip that we're doing today. So hopefully everything works out well, and I have some lesson plans and activities that you can do that are in accordance to Doomsday, the Turning Back the Clock, as well as the Manhattan Project. So hopefully all of that is going to be beneficial for some of our kiddos out there that have to have this for homeschooling purposes, or we're meeting some kind of a standard for you, Indiana State standard wise. So, all right, well, I'm really excited about this field trip today, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get started on turning back the clock through time.
Well, hello there. Welcome back to another session of Virtual Field Trips, Travels, and Destinations. My name is Beth Gaff, and I am the Systems Manager, Technology Trainer, and Robotics Instructor here at the Peabody Public Library. Today, we're going to be taking a look back through time. So we're going to actually be visiting a museum exhibit from the Museum of Science and Industry out of Chicago that is actually turning back the clock. So through compelling personal stories, innovative interactive media, and pulp culture artifacts, the exhibit takes guests through 7 decades of history from the dawn of the nuclear age to significant policy questions our leaders face today. So when we actually click on Turn Back the Clock, it does take us to this virtual tour. So we can learn about the significance of Doomsday Clock and how it has evolved to include risks we face today. Originally on display at Chicago's Museum of Science and Industry, the Turn Back the Clock exhibit is now available for visitors worldwide to explore online. Through compelling personal stories, which we've already talked about. So now we can go in here and explore some of the exhibits. So it does tell us here that in order to navigate, we're going to need our arrow keys. We can zoom in, enlarge. So our plus minus is important to us. We have an information panel, an exhibit artifact, and a video. Let's take a look at this. All right, so we can go into a full screen mode, but let's see what that does for us. Oh, okay. It does not. So we can click an image to zoom in. Okay. So this is to navigate. So it's the same information that we saw up here is what this is saying. So this is the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. And it looks like we can click on that and it tells us more about the atomic scientists. So we can click on our little dots. Oh, wow, look at how large this exhibit is. I wish we could do full size. Looks like it's also available in VR mode. So if you have virtual reality headsets, you should be able to get on here as well. This is, I guess we'll just have to click it and see, won't we? All right, let's click on this. All right, so this, not really, oh, here we go. Eyewitness, it doesn't really show me because, okay. Oh, this has to do with the Manhattan Project. That's pretty cool. And we have this fused sand from 1945. So it looks like this is just a really huge museum that we could actually take a look at some of these different items that they show us. So I'm just going to kind of briefly go through this. Maybe. So this talks about the first nuclear bomb. I am going to include this link. Model of Chicago pile in the University of Chicago laboratory. This tells us about how the world forever changed, chain reaction. Atomic scientist. So everything in here is all about the atomics. Doomsday clock sounds. And these are bulletins. So it looks like there might be quite a few artifacts, or this is all about the history. So you would probably have
These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other, or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
So that is a political campaign for Johnson during some of all of this time of doomsday and the clock ticking of nuclear disaster and weapons. So there is a lot of information on here, so you're definitely going to want to take a look.
The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists is a nonprofit organization here in Hyde Park. And for over 70 years, we've published a journal, which we now publish digitally every other month. We are focused on issues of science and technology and the advancement of it and how to manage the risks at planet level consequences. So we started in 1945, focused on nuclear risk, and that's what we're best known for. And we were created by Manhattan Project scientists here at the University of Chicago who had worked on the atom bomb, saw it tested, and said the world as we knew it has changed. We must change the public conversation. The Doomsday Clock is one of the best examples of the power of what happens when art and science come together. So it was the first cover of our first magazine in 1947, and it was created by an artist named Martil Langsdorff, who's from the area. After thinking about several different options, she created a clock. The clock conveyed an urgency, and it was a kind of in the public imagination of a countdown to zero, set first at 7 minutes to midnight, that the public had to get engaged and make sure we never use these weapons again because they are so dangerous. So you can write your Congress people, you can ask them when you meet them how they're thinking about climate change or what they're thinking about nuclear risk, and you can talk to your friends about it. If we have these conversations around the dinner table, we can come up with creative ways to make sure that others who care about these issues can join us in demanding change. One of my favorite parts of the exhibit, in addition to obviously all the stories and everything and how elegantly it flows, but it's the teenagers, the kind of, what I'm seeing is like 12 to 20 who are reading the questions and voting with these yellow discs about whether they think climate change will affect their lives or not, or whether or not they think writing to a politician makes a difference. The thought that they're putting into this before they vote, I've seen it happen so many times at this point, and it's still my favorite part of the exhibit.
Okay, so that just gives you a brief video about the museum. This is taking a closer look at some of the artifacts. Let's see. So this is one of the conversations that was going on. And then they have an oral history of the Manhattan Project. So it looks like Gene here was the one that created the atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. So they were her ideas. Let's see about that.
But you know what absolutely was devastating to me personally, I mean, when I suddenly realized this, and that was just after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, after the first group of observers had gone. I mean, and they came back to Los Alamos, and they were so appalled, and just stunned that, people would just gather together in the evenings and just, talk about it and try to grasp what had happened. But I was just absolutely undone. I went home and I couldn't go to sleep. I just really shook all night. It was such a shock to me, and I'm sure, that's others that had the same experience. But it's a very deep experience. I mean, it never leaves you.
I imagine it doesn't. So this just has more articles in there in regard to that. Takes us back to where we were. So back down here, who sets the clock? So this is just an article about that. Board of Sponsors. That's what it's talking about there. A New Start. And it shows President Barack Obama with Russian President Dmitry. Mary Lou Curtis. It's an oral history of her.
They said never use the term outside the slab of Manhattan Project. We did have Arthur Compton came and talked to us, all the technical people. The girls that work for me in the accounting room weren't invited, but I was. And Arthur Compton was one of the promoters of the nuclear research, or of the bomb, as it turned out. We didn't even know what the people in the next lab were doing. It was so secret. Arthur Compton told us, he said, what you're working on is in the way of a secret weapon. He said the Germans are working on it too, and whoever gets it first will win the war.
That is interesting. Oh, sorry.
They said never use the term outside the slab of Manhattan.
Okay. Let's see. We've got a little bit more of her. Oh, that's a really
When I
long.
got out of college, it was 19.
So she has a 19-minute interview that you might want to take a look at in regards to the atomic bombs. This is talking about nuclear-powered cars. So if you wanted to learn a little bit more about that. The designer of the Doomsday Clock, Langsdorff. Artificial intelligence, it starts getting into the AI of Jeopardy even. And if we all remember correctly, that would have been Watson, and how Watson played a role in a lot of our changing of evolvements. More about the Manhattan Project through President Truman and how they all signed it. If you haven't seen the virtual field trip about the Manhattan Project, I do have one on here. So you would want to go through our list of virtual field trips to see if you can find it. But it is very, very informational. World's most dangerous toy. 1950. Energy lab kit with uranium. So it's an actual radioactive toy that they sold in the 50s for $50. Comes with a comic book featuring Dagwood from the popular Blondie strip. Let's take a look at it.
If you were to Google the world's most dangerous toy, this is actually what will pop up on your screen. The Atomic Energy Lab Kit by A.C. Gilbert. It's because it comes with 3 sources of radiation and 4 uranium ores that are also radioactive. My name is Vula Saradakis. I'm a curator here at the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. Now, A.C. Gilbert claimed, and the makers claimed, that there was nothing dangerous about it. It really did emit very, very low amounts of radiation. But I probably would not encourage children to hold these samples next to their body all day long. Looks like a lovely little red paper suitcase with snake skin, it's not snake skin, on the outside of the box. And when you open it, you see this lovely picture of a young man who is working the Wilson cloud chamber. It comes with an instruction booklet, the comic book, How Dagwood Split the Atom, and it comes with a book on how to prospect uranium as well. You can use your own Geiger counter to do that because the kit comes with its very own Geiger counter with batteries. And it also comes with these rubber balls that are red and green with little rods so that you can build your own models of alpha particles. The Wilson cloud chamber, which you assemble so that you could actually see the vapor trails of alpha particles. The spinthariscope, just a tube with a lens, and you look through it and you can actually see what's called scintillations, which is basically alpha decay. It also comes with an electroscope, because it has a scale and indicator inside of it, and you look through the tube and you can actually see how much ionization, radiation comes from the particular source that you're using, and you can use either the alpha, beta, or gamma sources, or you can use one of the 4 uranium ores that come with the kit. They made fewer than 5,000 of these units. They were only made in 1950 and 1951, and they sold poorly. They were discontinued after only 2 years. And the reason for that is not because of any radioactivity concerns, but rather because it was expensive. It was $50. And in 1950, $50 is the equivalent of about $520 by today's standards, and that's pretty expensive. It's like a black box of science and technology, but then you open it like Pandora's box, and then you play with it, and then you realize later on down the road that there might be some hidden dangers there.
So that is the world's dangerous toy. Interesting. Let's see where we're at. Okay. The first nuclear bomb test. That's that document that we looked at earlier. Okay. I'm just reading some of this. Let's see what they have to say. So it looks like this is what it would look like when a bomb has gone off. Which does look very much like that drawing. Wow. So now we're just looking at different angles of what it would look like after the bombs have gone off. So this tells you about estimated 40,000 feet in the air. Very interesting. This is the treaty with President Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev. And when President Reagan was in office. This is a graphic history of the first atomic bomb. So this talks all about the first atomic bomb and the very first graphic novel ever created.
I started drawing comics when I was in grade school. I didn't want to just try to make one picture that told the whole story because it's incredibly difficult. Part of the goal of doing comics was to start being able to make drawings that you didn't have to have it all, rely on one picture, so you could have a whole book that told the story. Master files. When you're drawing real characters, part of what's fun about that is figuring out how to take these headshots, which are usually very banal. They're posing, they're trying to look a certain way, and give them emotion. And I find myself, as I'm drawing a figure, depending on what the scene is, I'm making the face that they're making. If they're angry, I scrunch my face up so that I can feel what it would look like to have their face scrunched up. And that's I think one of the fun things about drawing real people is figuring out how to sort of manipulate their faces and their expressions in ways that you don't have any evidence for, but it's all part of that imaginative reconstruction. So much of the Manhattan Project was documented. It's a huge trove of images. But one of the things that I'm always very conscious about is not just drawing an image that is the same as a photograph. It feels a little like cheating because the photograph's already out there, someone can already look at them. You're not really adding much to it. In a way, I'm sort of like, I'm making a worse version of an image that already exists. And so my goal when I'm using photographs is to try to figure out how to take the image that has been recorded on the page and draw it in a way that is still recognizable to a reader, that is the same scene, but draw it as if I were standing at a different angle, as if I were standing in a different place and looking at the same scene. It's familiar, but it's still giving you an impossible image, an image that wasn't recorded, but maybe could have been if someone were there at the right time. That bleeds over into my larger goal with this book, which is to try to figure out ways to show things that are fundamentally impossible to look at, which is like the inside of an atom, what it's like to be on the ground during an atomic test. Like these things that you just can't, there's just no way to visualize it.
Okay. I'm just going through all of these, taking a closer look of the artifacts that they have. And we're just kind of looking at some videos if they're on here. This is how the bulletins got started with the scientists. This is a manifesto with Bertrand Russell and Albert Einstein. And this talks all about the manifesto, including pictures of them. We already saw that commercial. Pearl Harbor anniversary, 1945. This gives us a brief history in the timeline and the bulletin that was going on during that time. Doomsday Machine and Dr. Strangelove.
Attack!
Russia.
Oh. Base.
10 females to each male.
Coca-Cola machine.
Fluids.
So.
The Doomsday Machine.
Blast off!
So that's just talking a little bit more about that. Oral History by Peter Lax.
Yeah, we arrived at clearly a government project. And once we were there, we were told essentially the basic thing. We are building an atomic bomb, that there are two bombs, one built of a special isotope of uranium, and the second bomb built of plutonium, which is an element that doesn't exist in the world. They are manufacturing it. So it was like science fiction. I don't read science fiction. I lived through it, so.
And then this gives you more, this is an hour-long video with him, so you'd be able to get more in depth in an interview about the Doomsday and Doomsday Clock. Atoms for Peace, Cancer Research, Nuclear Energy, Post-War America.
From the beginning, Argonne has been at the forefront of innovation and discovery. In 1946, Argonne was established to develop peaceful uses for a revolutionary new source of energy, nuclear power. The world has changed greatly over the last 70 years. Looming issues like population growth, urbanization, climate change, and unsustainable energy and water use have given rise to complex new challenges. To stay at the forefront, Argonne has evolved from something singular and isolated into something collaborative and global. Today, Argonne is a multidisciplinary research powerhouse at the leading edge of discovery science, energy innovation, environmental sustainability, and national security. Together with the Department of Energy and the University of Chicago, we are partnering with universities, government agencies, and industry to pursue big, game-changing ideas that benefit the region, the nation, and beyond. We bring the best scientists and engineers together with the most advanced scientific tools and facilities to tackle the world's greatest challenges.
Developing advanced battery technologies for transportation and the electric grid.
Building and operating powerful research tools to advance the boundaries of science.
Designing new materials for renewable energy sources.
Improving the design and operation of advanced nuclear energy systems.
Collaborating with researchers across the world to shed light on nature's unsolved mysteries.
Creating predictive models to understand the regional impact of climate change.
Evaluating energy and environmental implications of new biofuels from forest biomass.
Strengthening the nation's ability to detect and prevent the proliferation of radiological and nuclear materials and equipment.
Understanding the microbial world to revolutionize medicine and the treatment of disease.
Leading the way in designing more intelligent cities.
United by a common goal and an unwavering optimism, we are driving the scientific and technological breakthroughs needed to ensure a sustainable future. And as the world continues to evolve, so will the challenges we must address. For Argonne, this represents an opportunity to anticipate change and pursue ambitious ideas that address the scientific and societal needs of our nation.
So that tells you a little bit more about the laboratory. 2014, rallying at the People's Climate March. So this is about climate control. I think we're almost back to the beginning here. Trying. Every time I push a button, it moves me forward again. This is a novel, The World Set Free by H.G. Wells. This predicts the atomic warfare. A race to build the atomic bomb. Okay, so I think we got through all of that. All right. So up here, it just talks about, these are just sections of the doomsday clock. 90 seconds to midnight. That's what they're talking about. This talks more about what you can do to turn back the clock, because everything has a, something happens as a result of something else. Nuclear risks. This tells you about our nuclear risks. This tells you more about our climate change. Disruptive technology, biosecurity, and support their work. Over here, it looks like we've got other topics that you could take a look at about them. They're available on just about every social media platform. So again, if you have not taken a look, and let me show you on YouTube, on our channel, you can go to our videos. I think there's also a section in there that says playlists. But we have a bunch of these virtual field trips, travels, and destinations. I'm trying to playlists. So we have 37 of them, and if we click on this, oops, click on the list itself, no, okay. Videos. Oh, here we go. So this talks about the zoo, planetarium. I believe the Manhattan Project is one of the trips that we have done. There it is. So this was done this time last year. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at this, I think it's just a video I posted about it. Oh, shoot. So here we go. Yeah, it was just a 12-minute video, but you can find these all day long on social media as well. So, all right, you guys. Well, a lot of this is just going to be you exploring this site and going into some of the topics that are out there. Let me go back. So get us back to here. But the best thing you can do is actually this turn back the clock 3D exploration. So I would highly encourage you to do that. We just hit the surface briefly, and I know there's a bunch back here. So you can definitely just kind of go around the room. You can check out the different artifacts, where they're located throughout there, and so forth. So this was all about turning back time, turning back the clock, which is turning back the doomsday, and the atomic science of turning back the clock. So hopefully this was a pretty good educational thing for you. I'm going to try to pull together some lessons plans and activities for you that would kind of go along with climate control and turning back the clock and doomsday. I'm also going to include some of the Manhattan Project items as well, because I could see where this could turn into a really big project. So, all right, well, thanks so much for being a part of our field trip today. Without you, there'd be no reason to even have these. My information was included for you at the beginning of our class on the very, before we even got started in on this video. So if you have an idea for a virtual field trip that you would like to see us do, send me an email, send it my way, and I will definitely do my best to get out there and explore and do that field trip for you. So thanks again, you guys. Have a great one. I'll see you in the next field trip.